Portland, Oregon, 97207.
What I'm trying to say bluntly, you're not the right man at this particular time to become the director of the CIA, and I hate to say it.
Robert Gates fights for his professional life.
We were wrong at times, but our judgments were honest and unaffected by a desire to please or to slant.
President Bush's choice to head the CIA offers a point-by-point rebuttal to charges that he distorted intelligence reports.
Our review process wasn't easy, but it was far from closed. It was rigorous, but it was fair.
Gates's testimony could make or break his chances to be confirmed. Tonight, we'll look at where he stands.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ed Koppel.
It still appears that there will be enough votes on the Senate Intelligence Committee to confirm Robert Gates as Director of Central Intelligence, but the White House is taking no chances. Indeed, it appears to be playing a little political hardball. That, at least, is the impression of several former CIA officers who have either testified against Mr. Gates or who would like to have come on this broadcast tonight with their own critical assessment of the nominee's qualifications. In each case, these are people who still work for the U.S. government, who requested permission to appear on Nightline, and who were left with the strong sense that it would not be helpful to their careers. Indeed, two CIA analysts, John Hibbets and Carolyn Eckadall, have told colleagues that after delivering sworn written testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee, testimony that was critical of Gates, they have been told that their careers are over. The significance of this ought to be readily apparent. If witnesses supportive of Mr. Gates are being encouraged to testify while those critical of the nominee feel that their jobs are in jeopardy, the Intelligence Committee may not be getting a real sense of just how much opposition to Mr. Gates actually exists within the intelligence community itself. Still, enough criticism has already surfaced that the nominee, who returned to testify in his own behalf again today, was loaded for bear. Here's more from Nightline correspondent Jeff Greenfield.
I've watched and listened and read with some dismay, as well as some pain and anger during recent days, the discussion here of slanting intelligence.
If Robert Gates, the career intelligence bureaucrat, was unusually emotional today, he had good reason. He had come to Capitol Hill to save the job he had wanted for years. For days, as present and former CIA officers attacked and defended Gates's work at the agency, the certainty of his confirmation had become anything but. Yesterday, South Carolina's Ernest Hollings, who had publicly signaled his support of Gates, changed his tune.
Unless he changes my mind after hearing him, I wouldn't vote for him. Because I don't think it's in the best interest of the Central Intelligence Agency.
And yesterday, Congressman David McCurdy, a moderate conservative Democrat who chairs the House Intelligence Committee, publicly called on Gates to withdraw. So today, the usually buttoned-down nominee challenged his challengers in language rarely heard from within the intelligence community. Over and over, Gates answered the charges of slanted intelligence with the same tough language.
The allegations that I drove this paper to its conclusions and then knowingly misrepresented it to policymakers are false. The allegation is false. The allegation that I killed the 1982 draft to block analysis of constraints on the Soviets in the Third World is false.
The charge that he had helped feed President Reagan disinformation about Iran to help buttress the arms for hostages deal drew an especially tough reaction.
This allegation that I allowed a president to get CIA disinformation is a particularly reckless and pernicious charge and is refuted by the man supposedly involved.
For Gates, the explanation for the public opposition from some of his one-time colleagues rests with the new spirit of tough-mindedness he said that he and former Director William Casey brought to the CIA. Gates recalled today the challenge to the analysts that he had provided in a 1982 speech.
I have seen analysis that was irrelevant or untimely or unfocused or both, all three. Failure by analysts to foresee important developments or events. Close-minded, smug, arrogant responses to legitimate questions and constructive criticism.
That blunt critique of their work, Gates said, probably offended them.
The selection of the head of American intelligence is not a popularity contest. I sure as hell wouldn't win one at CIA.
This was a positively gentle view of his critics compared to the language of Gates's Republican supporters. Some of their words were etched in sulfur. New Hampshire's Warren Rudman.
But this committee did witness yesterday, as far as I'm concerned, an attempted assassination. The assassination of this man's character.
After skewering the witnesses against Gates for inaccurate or unsubstantiated charges, Rudman added this.
But to level the most serious charge of professional misconduct at Robert Gates requires some evidence, some reasoned analysis. To make such a charge without any supporting evidence, to manufacture facts, and I believe some were manufactured, to inaccurately quote individuals and documents, and to cite anonymous hearsay is, and I choose my words carefully, McCarthyism pure and simple. If we're going to assault him, let us assault him based on proven, known places where he was guilty of misconduct, not by the kind of innuendo this committee heard for the last 2 days. Mr. Chairman, I think we have done great damage to the CIA in the last 2 days.
The committee Democrats weren't buying it. Arizona's DeConcini hammered Gates for keeping a controversial assessment on Soviet involvement in the shooting of the Pope away from dissenters, and in not offering contrary views to policymakers.
Mr. Gates, I really have a problem here, how someone who is touted as being an expert, having read that report, which I now have read, you read it and you see no other side about a different view there, and let you place your judgment saying it's okay to disseminate. The problem with that is how many other times when you were the deputy director that you didn't take other actions. It's very troubling, Mr. Gates.
And Ohio's Howard Metzenbaum, one of Gates's most persistent critics, professed amazement at the public criticism of Gates by former and present colleagues.
What's bothering me is how come so many people are willing to stand up and take an oath and come out against you and indicate their reasons for being against you. That's not the normal thing to happen. The real question is, what will be the aura? What will be the attitude of the American people towards a CIA headed up by a Robert Gates, against whom so many have been willing to come forward to indicate their concerns, to put their reputations, and in some instances, their jobs on the line?
Toward the close of the day's session, it was left to South Carolina's Hollings to tell the nominee, face-to-face, that Gates's testimony today had not swayed him.
You're not the right man at this particular time to become the director of the CIA, and I hate to say it because I think you probably prevail.
And on the committee, the battle lines seemed clearly drawn.
I'm not sure Bob Gates is in trouble. I'm not sure his nomination is a certainty. But certainly, I believe that this morning's testimony should go a long way in convincing any doubters that many of these accusations are without any substantial foundation.
Well, it's very clear that the Republicans have, hunkered down and circled the wagons, are going to defend him no matter what, which is really a disappointment and a disservice to the CIA and the country, because we have an obligation here not to rubber stamp anybody.
The Senate Intelligence Committee, which has never had a contentious vote on a CIA director in its history, now seems poised for one. Right now, Gates seems sure to get all the Republican votes, but if Georgia's Sam Nunn says no, that leaves Committee Chairman David Boren, who has been supportive, even protective of the nominee, as Gates's only possible Democratic vote. That split would create an unprecedented possibility, a bitter partisan Senate floor battle over the president's chosen eyes and ears for American intelligence. I'm Jeff Greenfield for Nightline.
When we come back, we'll be joined by journalist Bob Woodward, who investigated the CIA under Gates's boss, William Casey, for his best-selling book, Veil, and former CIA official Graham Fuller, who defended Robert Gates this week at the Senate hearing.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Subaru.
Look at this car. Look at it again. Look at this offer. Look at it long enough to actually read it. Look what's parked in your driveway. Look at it again. Look both ways as you cross the street to your Subaru dealer. Wait, look at our logo first.
This is not the airport.
We'll get some directions. We'll get coffee. Road to the airport. Airplane. Airplane.
We'll never get coffee and sweet and low.
Ah, sweet and low.
Great! 2 coffees.
Coffee. Coffee? In a cup.
Sweet and Love. In 62 countries around the world, there's just no equal.
Vancouver Ford has hit the panic button. We're drastically overstocked with over 250 quality used vehicles, all priced to sell immediately. There's a group of 20, all just $99 a month with $299 down. Like an 89 Hyundai XL, $99 a month. But that's not all. How about 20 quality used cars and trucks, all priced under $1,000? Like an 84 Dodge Colt for just $699. We've hit the panic button. So come prepared to buy. Hurry to Vancouver Ford, your used car factory, where used cars and trucks simply sell for less.
It's the new Bismarck. It's a whole new ball game. It's the new Bismarck. Smarter business for your business.
3 convenient locations.
It's the last one. I'll smile.
The inspiring story of Dave Dravecki, the star pitcher who lost his arm. Find out what courage really means.
On 2020 Friday.
Joining us from our Washington studios is Bob Woodward, the assistant managing editor of the Washington Post, who wrote about the CIA under William Casey for his best-selling book, Veil. And from our Los Angeles bureau, Graham Fuller, former vice chairman of the CIA's National Intelligence Council. He defended Mr. Gates before the Senate Intelligence Committee this week, but I don't want to leave our audience with the impression that it's Fuller for the defense and Woodward for the prosecution, because I think that both of you are prepared to concede that this really is more in shades of gray than in black or white. But let me begin, Graham Fuller, by asking you, you would agree, I think, that certainly before the Senate Intelligence Committee, it is being portrayed that way.
That's exactly right, Ted. I think the problem here is an effort to push very complex issues into a kind of black and white matrix of good versus evil and personalities that obscure some quite fundamental, legitimate political and analytical dilemmas as we look at long-range estimative work. It's tough work, and it's very subtle work, and I don't think it can be reduced to the kinds of personalities in black and white that we see here today.
And yet, ultimately, these men are going to have to reach a decision on whether or not to confirm Bob Gates as the director. Why is he, if indeed you believe he is, why is he the right man for the job at this time, given all those problems, and given what is clearly a divided view of him within the intelligence community?
There are probably many reasonable men who could head the CIA. I think I'm simply saying that I don't think Bob Gates is the wrong man for the job, as so many have vociferously, a number of people have vociferously said in earlier sessions. I think he brings an extraordinary experience in terms of analytic background, a very fine mind, and understanding of how the interrelationship between policy and intelligence. A rigor that has been, I found, very useful and very valuable to the sharpening of intelligence work while I was at CIA.
Bob, as Jeff Greenfield mentioned before, it's highly unusual, perhaps even unprecedented, that a nominee for Director of Central Intelligence becomes the object of such a sharply political battle. How did it happen? I mean, a few months ago, it looked as though Gates was going to slide right through.
Well, I think the headline from tonight is Senator Rudman saying that the people who have testified against Gates are practicing McCarthyism. That is a very, very serious charge, and I think in a sense it demonstrates the passions that are afloat in all of these issues. And the reason for this is quite simple. It's very important. Take this specific case of the paper on the assassination attempt on the Pope. Suppose the Soviets had been behind that. Suppose that was true. That would have perhaps called for some sort of action on the part of our country and could have changed policies. So the question of whether that is true or is untrue is absolutely vital.
But if indeed what was sent to the White House was such a highly politicized paper suggesting that indeed the Soviets were behind it, history shows that the United States didn't do anything anyway. So I'm not sure I understand the point.
Well, the point is this memo was sent to George Bush when he was vice president, and Gates, in a cover letter, which he has now said he should not have said, he said this is the most comprehensive analysis we have on this problem.
But I think it's important to remember that that particular paper was an effort to make the worst case you could.
But he didn't tell George Bush that, and that's the problem.
That's correct.
He presented that as a standard intelligence analysis, and that's very serious business. I just don't understand how somebody can say that the people who have come in, like Hal Ford and others, and said, look, we have a criticism of this nominee, this is our experience. I think they talked quite effectively about the atmosphere that they allege Gates has created or helped create in the CIA in the 80s, and to say this is McCarthyism, it leads to the fact, which you said, Ted, that the people who are critical of Gates have been sent some sort of message, don't you dare go on television.
I must tell you, Graham, and I'd be interested in getting your reaction to it. I've heard from a couple of your former colleagues over at the CIA who say that there is a real sense over at the agency now of this is a time to duck and cover. To provide any criticism of Bob Gates at this time would not be a smart career move.
Well, Ted, I can't possibly imagine what the atmosphere is there now. It's been at least 4 years since I walked out of that building, and I haven't been back. I think it's understandable when you have a political drama of this dimension involving a nominee that there is going to be some anxiety if people have taken powerfully polarized positions before the guy walks in the door. There is going to be a lot of concern. I think that there's one aspect of this that's worth looking at, and that is how objection to him seems to focus very intensely on the Office of Soviet Analysis, and particularly on those people involved in Soviet and Third World things. I think this says something about the character of emotionalism that invested the whole American-Soviet confrontation and polarization for such a very long time. It brought out emotions in people about the way the world works and where we think things are going, and is the Soviet Union truly evil, and is the United States blameless, and are we pursuing the good policies? I think all of that tended to be distilled intensely in the Office of Soviet Analysis, and that's why we see so much of the grief and agony, especially coming out of that office today.
We've got to take a break. When we come back, I'll tell you what one former CIA officer told me this evening about Bob Gates' management style, which stands in stark contrast to the way he described his own management style. We'll continue our discussion in a moment.
Four days only. All Craftsman tools, all Craftsman lawn and garden equipment, and every gallon of paint are on sale. Save 10 to 33%. But hurry, it all ends Saturday at Sears.
For years, Chrysler has stood behind every car and truck it makes with the industry's longest powertrain warranty. Since no one could improve upon it, we did. With the Owner's Choice Protection Plan. Now you can choose our legendary 7-year, 70,000-mile powertrain warranty or our new 3-year, 36,000-mile bumper-to-bumper coverage. At Chrysler, one of the best warranties in the business just got 100% better. Now where does that leave the competition?
Ace is like a neighbor who can do everything.
Well, almost everything.
All you gotta do
is ask Ace.
Yeah.
Peak antifreeze is just $3.99 a gallon, and a 30-inch Ames Green Sweeper lawn rake is only $4.88.
Hey, Ace is the place for me.
Right, neighbor.
If I didn't have a great relationship with the factory, I couldn't get the cars I get now in volume. The availability of some of these products is scarce, as people know, and we don't have a problem with availability. We can get the cars. We have a tremendous selection of automobiles, 5 dealerships, 3,000-4,000 cars in stock, and that's what people want. So that's why I say, if you don't come see me today, I can't save you any money.
You like to take it easy, even on the go. You like to be casual, comfortable. That's why you go to Mervyn's. For the kind of clothes you wear to feel relaxed, easygoing, casual, at very comfortable prices. Mervyn's, for the clothes you love to live in.
I have a 73-year-old patient who is a sprinter, and he's come in with different injuries, and we've been successful in rehabilitating him. When somebody comes back and thanks me for helping them, I usually turn around and thank them for doing such a good job, and I give them the credit, and I say, hey, I just taught you some information that allowed you to succeed at healing yourself up.
Kaiser Permanente, the health-caring people.
What happens to your car after it's stolen? Our hidden cameras catch car thieves in action and watch them getting caught in the act.
On 2020, Friday.
Hostage negotiating. How does it work? Tomorrow, the man Israel sends to make a deal.
Then the making of a new docudrama, The Heroes of Desert Storm, on Good Morning America tomorrow.
In his testimony today, Bob Gates described himself as a man who at least once a month came down from the 7th floor and would meet with department or division or bureau chiefs. I'm not sure if I've got the terminology right, to sort of hear from them what was going on and what their criticism was. Someone from Soviet Affairs told me today that in the 5 years that he served as an analyst in that group, he never once saw Bob Gates. Does it really make a difference, Bob Woodward, whether he was an approachable or not an approachable boss?
Well, there are many people in many institutions who are great number twos. Gates is the Deputy National Security Advisor. He was Casey's number two, and don't work as number ones. They are not leaders, and the question here really is leadership. Can he lead? And as I once remember William Casey telling me that Casey, thought when he was head of the CIA, he was the chief analyst. He was the guy who had to go down to the White House and say to the president, you better watch out about this country or what's going on here. This is a big deal. It's a very important job.
Leadership, Graham, and also a willingness to listen to other points of view. I mean, intellectual honesty is the most important product that the CIA has to offer to its consumers over at the White House and within the rest of the government. Therefore, the question, again, is Bob Gates the kind of man who was open to listen to points of view other than his own?
Ted, in my experience, he was. I cannot speak for the analysts in the lower ranks of the Office of Soviet Analysis. I found that when I had a case to be made, I could go to him, I could be tough, and I could be blunt, and he would listen. He doesn't suffer fools gladly. Not very many top people in Washington do. He can be very tough. But I never felt that I was in a position that I had to toady or say things to him that he wanted to hear. I don't think I ever felt that I was being subtly directed or hinted to that I should follow certain kinds of analysis that would please him. He wasn't number two, after all, to those of us doing national estimates. He was our direct boss. And I don't think there was a failure of leadership there.
Go ahead, Bob.
But I would confirm that. I know Gates a little bit, and I think he is willing to listen to other points of view, and he is a very capable, intellectual man. He obviously is somebody who has the support of the president, and I think you really have to look at the president's track record at picking people to run agencies and departments, and this is not an editorial, but he has a very good track record, so you have to give some credence to that. I think the real question is, what about the future of the CIA? I've heard people say Gates represents the past, and there are a whole series of new problems that have to be addressed, and is he the person for that job?
What's your answer?
I don't know. I mean, I think the Senate committee, and particularly after hearing Senator Rudman making these really incredible charges of McCarthyism, that is a big word to use around this town and around this country. That the Senate committee now has an almost impossible task. It has become politicized. It has become emotional. I think you will see in the future them going behind closed doors more and more on this issue. I think somebody, the leader, Chairman Boren, who I think is a fair man, will try to find some way to build consensus, but seeing the passion here, I don't know how you put it back together.
And Graham, in a little less than a minute that we have left, your answer to the same question, is this the man to lead the CIA into this next era?
I think this process, Ted, has been an extremely valuable one, and a very valuable one for Bob Gates himself. It's imperative, whatever his strengths and failings are, that he have heard all this analysis, all this particular anguish from certain quarters within the agency, all these types of criticisms about perceptions and things seemingly done or not done. He had better listen to this kind of to these statements and take them very much to heart if and when he goes into that building to direct it. I think he is a man with sufficient intellect to change with the changing world, and to deliver to the president and the rest of the government the kind of rigorous analysis that is required. And I think he will be the stronger for having gone through this kind of very searing investigation into his capabilities and his weaknesses.
I thank you both very much. Graham Fuller, Bob Woodward, good of you to be with us. We'll be back in a moment with a program note.